Okay, then stepping across to the panel discussion, and we always want to hear from real hospitals, and we also want the context for Class 1 to feed into this. So as you've heard before, welcome to Greg at Grand River, who's one of the installations Class 1 has in place right now. Thanks to Harry, who's managing 192 hospitals with these kinds of installations. And once again, thanks to the good folks from Class 1. And what we wanted to explore with you, and if the mics are open, the three questions that we hear consistently are around the issues with respect to trying to get OR systems running properly. Your first is around obviously health and safety, the surgical teams, IPAC. What kind of concerns get voiced there, and in terms of lessons learned from trying to run with this stuff, Greg, could we start with you? That where is Grand River at? Where is Kitchener-Waterloo at with respect to setback ventilation systems, and what kind of issues and questions and concerns do you get, if any, and if none, that's great too.
So the issues we have with our ORs is all our 10 ORs are fed by one fan. So having night setbacks wasn't an option because our ORs are constantly being used even throughout the night for emergency surgeries and some scheduled surgeries. So we put occupancy sensors in all of our ORs. But what we found out through a trend is it's not very often the fans slow down because there's always somebody in the OR. It only takes one nurse or one aide to enter one of the ORs and the fans ramp back up again. So disadvantage we have here is that we only have one fan system.
So do you have control on the individual ORs, Greg? You know, does each OR have, so you don't have control either of the supply to the OR or the exhaust from it?
We have some control over the return air, but we don't have variable volume boxes in our ORs, no.
Okay, so this in fact would look a lot like North York General, that you, as you say, you can only set back if all of them are unoccupied, and that's not going to happen. So right. This would be a project like them with installing control devices, and given the age of Kitchener-Waterloo, I'm guessing that would be as big a challenge physically as it was at North York General.
I'm assuming it is, because you never get to work on the ORs.
Okay, we were able to find some space at North York General, but it's too busy at KW?
So when the last time they did a retrofit in the ORs was, I'm going to say 12 or 13 years ago maybe. They took half the ORs down, and then they had to split the HVAC system, and maybe even 15 years ago, and that's when we got our new fan unit. So we only were able to take half them down, but we still weren't able to upgrade the system to where we would like it today.
Okay, and Harry, what is your plan or strategy, and where does OR ventilation, I guess, upgrading the systems but setting them back during, where does that fit in your big utility management plan?
Well, that's definitely part of it. And so we do have some design guidelines that are going to be rolled out hopefully by October. So in there are a strategy for existing hospitals is to do that as part of an energy management plan. For our new hospitals, we actually don't build the infrastructure. So we are working more closely with Alberta Infrastructure, the government branch that builds everything. So they hire the consultants, they hire, and they fund all the projects. So although for the most part, anything that is new, the consulting industry in general is putting in the occupied, unoccupied mode. So we usually have no problems there. The problems we're having largely are around humidity, not just in the OR, but in our medical device reprocessing areas as well. But in OR, humidity is the big issue. And we also find that there's just a lot more load coming into the ORs more things to generate heat. So the surgeons are, you know, I mean, they're all covered up and a little bit worse with COVID. They're getting hot, so they want temperatures that are much cooler, which makes it harder to control the humidity.
Yeah, so that's right. The lower the temperature, the tougher it is to stay within that 60%.
Yeah, we're finding, like, even back when I was in the design and working as a consultant, you do things based on the building code, which has the dry bulb and the wet bulb temperatures from the federal government. But I think that data is a little bit outdated because we're just finding in general that our humidity levels are increasing. And then in special places like ORs, where you can't be at the design standard with it plus minus 2%, I think we need to, we're going to actually try to focus, and the design guidelines are going to have our consultants accounting for a higher dry bulb and wet bulb temperature, at least in those specific areas where we know we have problems.
Maybe a couple of closing thoughts on the whole anesthetic gas recovery piece. The experience at Grand River so far, Greg, how has that been?
It's been really well. So back in, I think, 2006 is when we had that OR renovation. They put in the infrastructure for the active anesthetic gas recovery. And at that time, Class 1, who's in our backyard, approached us to be a beta test site for an anesthetic gas recovery system, which we were glad to do. And Class 1's excellent to work with on any medical gas thing, actually, not just anesthetic gas, but they monitor the system remotely. They upgrade it when it needs to be. They receive all the alarms if it goes wrong. The default is venting to the air, of course, and they come in regularly and do PMs and recover our gas.
Okay, so we will plan to add to the next version of the guide a section on exactly how that's working and what it looks like. Harry, in Alberta, we mentioned carbon offsets. I know you've done work before with carbon offsets. Have you done any of them around anesthetic gas recovery? And do you have any off the top thoughts on how Grey Nuns managed to cut the usage by so much?
Well, I can't speak to Grey Nuns because we don't operate that facility. We own the building, but it's the Catholic hospitals in Alberta kind of run those buildings. So I'll have to look into that and deal directly with them. But we did look into anesthetic gas recovery to get carbon, to have the project be driven by carbon recovery doesn't make economic sense at this point in time anyway. The emphasis from some of our physicians that are in part of our provincial executive sustainability committee are more focused on the gas themselves, trying to get away from the desflurane and more into the subflurane, sevoflurane.
Okay, so that's one we'd like to follow with you and maybe with Covenant as well. So this dual opportunity of reducing how much we use and then recovering what we still have to use, and continuing the discussions with Class 1 around what percentage of the gases that get used actually can be recovered, how much get lost in the system and escapes to atmosphere anywhere. So again, this feels like a big enough issue to us that we'd like to carry it further for the new guide, and we'll be kind of communicating with all of you as that works out. So
Ian, we did have a couple of questions about what happens exactly to the gas that's recovered that weren't touched on during the presentation.
Thank you. I was going to ask that question and I had it noted. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Anyone from Class 1? What do you do with the gas when you got it?
So right now we're actually collecting enough gases, and we have a project ongoing with the University of Waterloo, which is actually where we hired Mina from, to recover the gases and put them into the fluorine market. Mina, do you want to actually speak to that, since you have more research in that area?
I just want to add fluorinated compounds are the valuable compounds that have a big market as a solvent and other application in the chemical industry. So we are working with the University of Waterloo. They have been done a couple of studies to be able to convert these materials to something in the safe environment of conditions to be used to sell them as a chemicals. This is a research project we are working with them until we get enough anesthetic to be able to collaborate with one of the chemical companies to go through the process and sell them. So until that time, we just collect the anesthetic and safely store them.
Was there another question, Michael? Thank you, Mina.
No, not at this time.
Okay. Then let me pass this back to you to let people know what's happening for the rest of the year and how to get in touch with you with questions and comments as they arise.
Sure. Did you want to have the second poll?
Mike, yeah, you want to also share the poll results as well?
Yes, let's do that.
So do you want the second poll or the results from the first?
Let's do the results from the first one to begin with.
So most of the people who responded had 10 or more ORs. A few had 5 to 10 and a few also 0 to 4. It was kind of the spread. Around 36% of those do use airflow setback when unoccupied, and another 43, not all, but less than 75%, and a small amount, more than 75%, or they didn't know. And there's.
So does that mean the majority are not using setback? I think that's what I heard. A small majority. 36% do and 43 don't. Is that what?
Yeah, it's about 50-50.
Okay. Okay, that's useful to know.
Okay, and then there's a pretty even spread of how often fan systems are tested, between once every 6 months, once every year, once every 5 years, and that they didn't know.
Okay.
And the type of air ventilation heat recovery, half of them are thermal wheel, 36% heat recovery chiller, and a couple of glycol, and a couple none.
Okay, yeah. So the next poll is a really quick one. Do you want to quickly throw that up?
Yeah, I apologize for running a bit late here, but get a little bonus time with the group. So that poll's up now.
So this is looking to explore from everything you've heard right now so far. What gets in the way? We believe this is something that should be done, that ultimately will be done everywhere. What are the things that get in the way? Can they only click one box, Michael, or can we have more than one?
It's multiple.
So you can choose every one that applies. And we'll feed this back to you after the fact. So is it the communications issue, getting clinical staff to buy in? Is it a financial issue, or is it really hard and complicated? If you check other, we will likely follow up with you as to what could that be. And again, going back to the beginning, Greening Healthcare's interest in this is to enable you to move forward with these projects at the right time. We want to make sure that we know what gets in the way. Did everyone put down their pencils, Michael?
Still getting results in. So around half of it is capital and business case for retrofits. 23% is clinical staff approval, and then 15% is other.
Okay. Okay, so that's the area we're going to be focusing on, as to, again, what gets in the way of taking action that we think needs to be taken. So now I will pass it back to you, Michael. Thanks for the rest of the year and contact information.
If could you put up the events plan for the rest
Yes.
of the year?
Of course, my apologies.
So these are always up on our website, and we do change them from time to time. So September, we have 2 events. One of them is for our Greening Healthcare members only, and one of them is open to anyone who wishes to attend. That's usually one of the more popular areas of work of the year. So that's looking at the performance of all the new hospitals in Ontario. The members webinar will go a little bit deeper, including an in-depth case study of one of them, as well as looking at the heating plant best practices guide. In October, we have the thermal wheel project, which was looking at the controls of thermal wheels. So we did earlier this year, and we had to kind of pause for a bit while the thermal wheels weren't operational during the summer. And then we'll have another members webinar in November, and then Ian's potluck party will be in December, where we have any number of contributions. And that'll wrap us up for today. The recording will be available on the website within a day or 2. And there's our contact information if you wish to reach out to either of us. And thanks for joining us today. Thanks for our panel for all their contributions, to Greg and Harry and Class 1. And until next time, take care, everyone. Bye.